Hi, and welcome to part 2 of this week 1 presentation. Let's pick up where we left off in part 1 by continuing to take a look at our primary topics for this week. In our coverage of our other primary topic for this week, virtual machine movement, you will learn about several different tools and options that are available. Of course, what we will be primarily looking at will be virtual machines within Hyper-V. One of the more important tools or options that you will learn about this week is live migration. As the name implies, live migration is a feature of Hyper-V that allows administrators to move a virtual machine while it is up and running. This is an awesome feature when you have a critical server that needs to be moved to another location on the network, because you can move it without having any downtime. 2, it is possible to perform multiple simultaneous migrations. The speed of the migration depends upon network bandwidth, so the higher the bandwidth, the faster the migration. As you are learning about the different types of virtual machine migration this week, keep in mind that live migration involves moving a virtual machine to a different physical server, and this can now be done outside of a clustered environment. Also, if you do any research on the topic of live migration, be aware that there are some differences between Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2012. Most importantly, live migration in Windows Server 2008 required clustering. Another type of migration that you will learn about this week is quick migration. Quick migration involves moving a virtual machine to a different physical machine within a cluster. Keep in mind, we can move just parts of the virtual machine if we like. And finally, you will also learn about storage migration this week. The name is pretty self-explanatory, so as you would expect, this is where you move the storage of a virtual machine to another physical server, and this can be done outside of a cluster. Next, I would like to take a quick look at some of the key terms for this week, and then I will end up this presentation by taking a look at this week's assignment. I'm not going to mention all of the key terms here for this week. Some have already been addressed, and others you will run into in your weekly reading assignment. First, we have a cluster. A cluster is a group of servers that are linked together as one server. Next, multicast. That's a type of network communication where a host sends packets to a specific group of hosts. The next term here, port rules. This is the part of the network load balancing configuration that allows an administrator to specify how network load balancing will direct traffic based on the port number and the protocol that's being used. Unicast is a type of network communication where a host sends packets to a specific host. And the final term here, virtual hard disk. This is a file format that is commonly used for the hard drive of a virtual machine. VHD format is a requirement for live migration. Finally, let's take a few minutes to go over the assignment for this week. First of all, let me navigate to the assignment within Blackboard. Okay, as you can see here, the assignment starts out with a list of the assignment objectives. These are the weekly objectives that are addressed in the Week 1 assignment. Since we've already gone over all the weekly objectives, I will not go over them again, but notice that weekly objectives 3 through 8 are addressed in the Week 1 assignment. Next in the assignment, you see the purpose for the assignment. And then next are the guidelines for the assignment. Now the purpose for our Week 1 assignment is for you to learn how to configure network load balancing and how to manage virtual machine movement in Windows Server 2012. As far as the guidelines go, be sure that you follow these guidelines in creating and submitting your assignment. The guidelines here are as follows. Number 1, you need to open up the assignment template document that is attached to this week's assignment instructions in Blackboard and complete all of your work in this template. And up here you can see the template that is attached. Number 2, ensure to paste screenshots as instructed. 3, be aware that I often ask for additional screen captures above and beyond what you are instructed to do in the lab manual. You should look ahead at the requirements for each lab before starting the lab. Number 4, be sure that you number the questions that you are answering from the lab. Number 5, save your file as, and you see an example here for week 3, and in week 1 you would save it as W1A1 and then your name. And number 6, you need to submit your work via the submission area in Blackboard. Okay, next are the assigned labs. These labs will be completed within the MOAC online lab environment. You can find information about accessing MOAC labs online in the NT302 course syllabus. As we continue to look at the Week 1 assignment here, notice that it is estimated that it will take you about an hour and 55 minutes to complete all assigned labs. As you can see here, your first lab for Week 1 is MOAC 70412-Lab 1. In this lab, you will install network load balancing, you'll create a Windows Server 2012 network load balancing cluster. You will configure DNS so that users will be able to find the cluster. You'll configure the cluster properties. Then you will learn how to manage cluster nodes. And in the final part of this lab, you will remove the NLB cluster. Okay, so all of these are a part of the lab on configuring network load balancing. The other lab that you have to complete as part of the Week 1 assignment is MOAC 70412-Lab 4, Managing Virtual Machine Movement. And this is where you will perform some tasks that are related to virtual machine movement. In this lab, you will be moving a virtual machine storage location, you'll be moving a virtual machine to another physical host, And then finally, you'll be copying a virtual machine. Okay, now I've already logged into MOAC Labs online, so let me bring that up and I will show you where the labs are for this week. Keep in mind, you should use Internet Explorer when accessing the MOAC Labs online. Okay, once you log in to the MOAC Labs online, this is the first page that you will see. Okay, and here you notice is the first lab, Lab 01, and of course that is the first lab for you to complete in week 1, and this one's on network load balancing. And then over here is Lab 4, which is on virtual machine movement. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at our first lab so that you will know what to expect. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is click on Take Lab. You'll notice now that the lab is loading. Also notice we have a download button here where we can download the lab manual. Okay, and here you can see what this first lab manual looks like. Notice it starts out with a list of all the exercises that you will complete. Okay, it tells you what to do before you begin. Gives you a list of the different servers that you will have access to in this lab. Mentions anything that's required for you to complete this lab. Okay, and then next there's some information about working with the lab sheets, and then it begins with exercise 1.1. Notice that each exercise has step-by-step instructions, and you need to make sure you follow them in sequence. So once you complete step number 1, then go on to step number 2, and once you complete that, move on to step number 3, and so on. Okay, you'll notice that our lab is still loading here, and there we go. The lab is now completely loaded. It should come up in just a few seconds. Okay, so we're connecting to one of the virtual machines, and here you can see we are actually on. Let me slide my window down here so you can see everything that's going on here. Okay. Notice we're actually on one of the servers. Okay, we can press Control-Alt-Delete, which you see over here, in order to log on to our server. Okay, and then notice down the right hand side we have sort of like tabs where we can access the different machines that are available to us in this lab, as well as the lab manual itself. So if you didn't click on the link earlier to download the lab manual, you can always get it right here. Okay, well, I think that's about it for this presentation. If you have any questions about the week 1 assignment, be sure to contact your instructor. And this concludes part 2 of this week 1 presentation.